Mel Kiper, draft expert. The Disney company kicks off its presentation of the draft starting at 8 Eastern on ESPN ABC, ESPN Deportes, ESPN Radio. Mike Greenberg will host primetime telecast in Cleveland. You have Booger McFarland, you have Louis Riddick, Chris Mortensen, Adam Schefter, Susie Kolber, and that'll be ESPN's 42nd NFL draft telecast. Mel Kiper's been along for the ride for most of those years. In fact, is it 40 years you've been doing this, or have you been there since day one, Mel?
Dan, I've been doing it for 43, and with ESPN, 38.
38. What is your mood like? How nervous will you be tomorrow night?
Not at all. I think, you look back over the years, Dan, and maybe in the early first couple, you were just apprehensive because you didn't really know kind of what to expect. And then Boomer, Chris Berman kept me at ease. I was with Bob Lee and Chris Berman those first couple of years, and that made it easier. And then after that, Dan, you just get used to it. You're always nervous when you don't know what to expect. And when you come in, you're 22, 23 years of age and haven't had any experience on television, obviously, going on an NFL draft show is something that you wonder, okay, how do I do it? What do I do? I had no idea. There was no way of knowing until you actually did it. So after a year or two, it's obviously the preparation, and going in, and you talk about it, Dan, so much as over the course of the year, that by the time you get to kind of draft day, you're ready to get this thing started and find out actually where these guys are going to land.
When's the last time you were truly surprised?
Every year, and that's why mock drafts. You do them, Dan, but you want to be surprised. And nobody wants to know what the presents are under the tree on Christmas morning. Nobody wants to know who's being picked. We know the first two picks in this draft, Dan, and nobody's talking about the Jets and Jacksonville anymore. About a month ago, everybody stopped talking about those two teams and those two picks. Now it was all about the 49ers, and they've kind of kept people guessing a little bit, but we thought Mac Jones. But then it was all about Atlanta at 4. So I think when you look at it, it's the unpredictability of just about every choice after maybe the first one. And I remember back then the Drew Bledsoe, Rick Meyer. You didn't even know the morning of the draft for sure that Drew was going number one. And there's been other drafts like that. So I just think it's the anticipation that fans have. And the crazy part for me, Dan, is after the draft, we do a grade show. Okay, we grade the draft. And, that'll be on Tuesday. And even on Monday when we go through the gauntlet of every show talking about the draft, I'll be talking about a player to how I mocked him, not where he actually went. Because in your mind over the last few months, you're thinking, I project this player to this team, and I've been pretty consistent with it, but that's not where he actually went. So once he goes there, you're going to kind of reprogram your mind to say, okay, he's not a Cowboy, now he's a Steeler, whatever it may be, Dan. So that's on Monday and Tuesday is even more of a challenge than anything you do during the course of the year.
But what you did initially was you projected where a player should go or what a team should do. Now it's different in a mock draft. If I said, what should the Jets do at number 2 overall, would that be different than what the Jets are going to do at number 2?
Yeah, completely different. I would have kept Sam Darnold and utilized that pick by trading down. You say if you're stuck at 2, you take the best player on your board, whatever receiver that is, whether it's Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, whoever it was. I would have gone forward with Sam Darnold. And I think Joe Douglas basically admitted and said that, okay, had we been picking 3, that's exactly what we would have done. He fell in love with Zach Wilson, and that's why with the second pick, he decided to take Zach and trade Sam. Now, had he, been picking 3rd, he would have kept Sam and then utilized that pick to get extra choices, move down a little bit, or use that pick on a receiving entity. So I think it just came down to Joe Douglas's love of Zach Wilson and that tremendous arm talent and that great year he had at BYU to force him away from Sam. Also resetting the clock, we talked about that, how important that is. But I would have got the 23-year-old Sam Darnold to go through what he did. I don't think you owed it to him, Daniel, or anybody. It's not fair. It's not about fairness. But I think he gets a fresh start. He learned a lot, and he'll be better for it with the Carolina Panthers. And if he's successful there, Carolina should thank the Jets for putting him through that. Peyton Manning and Troy Aikman always told me, you learn by the mistakes. You learn by all the bumpy roads. And that's what Sam Darnold went through in New York, and now he's in Carolina with a completely fresh start. He's the same age, Dan, as Kyle Trask, who's in this draft.
What should the Niners do?
I would take Justin Fields, and that's been my second highest rated quarterback all along. I was obviously at Josh Allen number one when he went with third quarterback overall. Had Herbert high last year. He went third overall. You think about some had Jordan Love ahead of Herbert. Some obviously think that Justin Fields is the fifth quarterback in this draft. I respect all those opinions, and I just disagree. I think he's the second best quarterback. What he did in 2019 is kind of being forgotten. It's kind of being overlooked. It's all about 2020, a COVID year.
But you had Jordan Love above Justin Herbert?
No, I said some did. I had
tried
a high grade on Herbert. Some had Jordan Love over Herbert. And, that was where, that happens and things. Everybody has different opinions. But, that's why I say Herbert was very underrated. It was taking a lot of criticism going into the draft. Josh Allen, I had the number one quarter. I had a battle on Josh Allen. So I battled on Allen. I battled on Herbert. Like I said, some had moved Jordan Love ahead of him. And I'm battling on Justin Fields, but I lost that battle. But I've said all along, Dan, the quarterback who falls a little bit, like Josh did, like Justin was the third quarterback, Herbert. Justin Fields could be the fifth quarter. Those quarterbacks, Rodgers, go back into Roethlisberger, go back to Dan Marino in '83, sixth quarterback in round one. Okay, these quarterbacks that have fallen have done pretty well over the long haul. Not perfect, but they've done pretty well. So it's maybe it's a chip they get from being overlooked and maybe criticized. I don't know what it is, but those teams have usually benefited from that drop.
But they go to a better team. The reason why you're up in the top 10 or top 5 is because you probably don't have a good quarterback. And then if you go to a team, and even if you sit, if you ended up with the Steelers and, you sat for a year with Ben Roethlisberger, or you went to one of these teams that, like the Bears are a playoff team, they just don't have a good quarterback. Washington football team, playoff team, they don't have a good quarterback. If you end up with one of those teams, you might have a chance for long-term success over Zach Wilson trying to survive the Jets.
It's true, Dan. I went back to 2000. Between 2000 and 2016, 44 quarterbacks went in the first round. Only 3 are with the teams that drafted them, and that's Ben Roethlisberger's only got one more year. Aaron Rodgers, who could be moving on after next year, who knows? And also Matt Ryan, who has a couple more years left. And from 2009 to 2016, I did that because that was Stafford's year against Goff's year. So between Stafford's year in 2009 and Goff's year in 2016, Dan, 22 quarterbacks in the first round, none of them are with the teams that draft them. And since 2017, we've had Haskins move on, Rosen move on, Darnold move on. It's just unbelievable how quarterbacks who were drafted in the first round since 2000, the vast majority are gone from the team that drafted them.
He's Mel Kiper, draft expert. Where should Mac Jones go?
I think to New England would be the perfect spot. 49ers obviously are at 3. Kyle Shanahan seems to really like him. But I think the ideal spot would be San Francisco. Let's face it, Dan. What's better than being in a Kyle Shanahan offense? Or Mike Shanahan offense as well. It guarantees the quarterback a chance for success. And the only reason Jimmy Garoppolo isn't the quarterback defined clearly as our guy is because he hasn't been able to stay healthy. A couple of years in the 49ers injured. The year in New England when he filled in for Brady, he was hurt there. Only played in 2 of the 4 games when Tom was suspended. So he just hasn't been able to stay on the field. He had that meltdown in the midway point of the fourth quarter in the Super Bowl. But the durability with Garoppolo is the biggest issue. But I think if Mac Jones goes there and he takes over for Garoppolo in midway through year 1 or year 2, whatever it is, he's going to have success. If he goes to New England, obviously it's the Tom Brady fit as opposed to the Cam Newton fit. So I think either one of those spots would be good for Mac Jones.
Did you scout Tom Brady?
I did.
What'd you think?
Liked him. I had a grade on him like late 4th, early. I didn't hire him. He went, which I can tell you is all in print, Dan. We talked about it when he was. I think the anniversary of that. They played the whole soundbite of what I said when he was drafted, and I had him ahead of Spurgeon Wynn. Remember, Spurgeon Wynn went from Southwest Texas State, went ahead of Tom Brady to the Cleveland Browns. We're in Cleveland for the draft. Dan, Cleveland took Spurgeon Wynn in that year out of Southwest Texas State over Tom Brady. I can look back and say I had him ahead of Spurgeon Wynn. The Browns obviously didn't, and Tom Brady's career would have been a little different had the Browns taken him instead of the Spurgeon Wynn. Dan,
where'd you have Russell Wilson?
Probably a little too low. I say a little low. I mean, he's going to be a Hall of Famer, so everybody had him. He was a 3rd-round draft choice. I remember saying that year I don't know what Russell Wilson will be. I have no idea. He's only 5'10 3/4. We've never had that. We had Seneca Wallace around that size. You had Doug Flutie going back to Fran Tarkington. There have been some. Fran Tarkington had a great NFL career, but that size, I said he was gonna be the quarterback who defined the next 50, 100 years of the NFL. And what he did, he opened up the opportunity for Kyler Murray to be the number one pick overall. His success or lack of was going to define how other quarterbacks under 6 feet were going to be viewed, Dan. And the fact that he did great. Now, to what I said, I just said, I don't know. So if I don't know, I wouldn't have drafted him high, obviously. And he went in the third round. So, again, the NFL was kind of having that wait-and-see approach with Russell Wilson as well. Hey, go prove it. And if you prove it, then we'll look at 5'10", 5'11" quarterbacks a lot differently moving forward.
I remember watching the Big Ten title game. We were in Indianapolis, and Kirk Cousins and Russell Wilson were going back and forth in a shootout. And then, Kirk gets drafted, I think, fourth round. Russ gets drafted third round. Mm-hmm. But a source of mine said at the time, NFL scout, he said, if Russell Wilson was 6'2", he would be a first-round draft pick. Like, the difference in the mindset, even back then, was, hey, if he's 5'11", I don't know. But if he's 6'2", he's a first-round draft pick. You believe that?
Yep. Yeah, because it never happened before, Dan, to that level. And I think until somebody does it, like I said, he was a trailblazer. He did something that, and I said this on the draft, and John Gruden loved him. I give John credit. John loved him. He was screaming at me, it doesn't matter. Well, I said it matters because, let's face it, I was kind of right and wrong. I was right in the fact he wasn't going to be a first-round draft pick. He was a third-round draft pick. So if we're talking about where he was rated, I had it right. Now, did I have it right when he would end up being a Hall of Famer? No, but the rest of the league got it all wrong, too. 32 teams in this league. I mean, hey, Dan, Seattle waited until the third round. They could have very easily lost him, too. So I give them credit for, like Brady. Brady goes to New England at the end of the sixth round. They took a cornerback from Virginia in the sixth round ahead of Tom Brady, the Patriots did. But give them credit because they were one of 32 that took him. Give Seattle credit because they were one of 32 that took Russell Wilson. But 31 teams got it wrong. They got it right, and he still went in the third round. So, again, I think he proved that it doesn't matter. And that's why, like I said, Dan, that's why Kyler Murray was the number one pick overall coming out of Oklahoma. But when he had some struggles with Texas A&M, and people were wondering he was going to play baseball. Even with that, he went number one overall. And that was all because of Russell Wilson.
Outside of Trevor Lawrence, who do you think is the safest pick in this draft?
I think when you look at Pitts, you go to Devontae, Jamar Chase, and Jalen Waddle. I think all four of those that's your second, third, fourth, fifth highest rated players in this draft behind Trevor. I think they're and I know receivers have some fails. Those are special guys. Those are the ultimate competitors that have the ability to help out on special teams like Waddle. Pitts is a unique talent. I would bet on all four of those guys having great NFL careers. If one doesn't, that'll be it, Dan, and it might be good, not great. But I would say you're pretty safe taking any one of those four players. That goes back to the Jets. They could have kept Sam Darnold and had one of those four, even with a trade down, and picked up extra choices. So Zach Wilson's going to be defined by his greatness or a lack of, and also be defined by how Sam Darnold does. So I think we're going to be looking back on that whole move. It's going to define Joe Douglas's career with the Jets. If he hits with Zach Wilson, then Joe Douglas is going to have a winning work because he's going to draft well. They got good scouts. The Jets drafted well last year. They're going to get players around Zach Wilson. And they already have a much better talent base going into this year than they had last year for Sam. So he's going to have a chance. He's going to have a fighting chance. Sam had no chance. Zach Wilson's going to have a fighting chance if he's up to the task.
Yeah, see, I'm just skeptical on Zach Wilson, and I'm skeptical on Trey Lance. I know they have talent. I just don't know, what's it like with adversity? What's it like when you throw an interception? What's it like when you're facing an opponent who is a lot better than you? I don't know that. And that's why I just paused that the Jets are sold on Zach Wilson. And look, he looks like a guy who would be playing a guy who gets drafted number 2 overall. I understand that. I just, we grew up in a time where we had so much more information on somebody. Like, we have too much information on Justin Fields. As a source said to me, people are overthinking Justin Fields. I don't get it. That's my thought process. But, I mean, it's hard to assess if I've got 7 starts or, 11 starts here. It's just kind of crazy. Or I have to factor in your previous year like Jordan Love and then go, okay, who are you here? We don't factor in Justin Fields' great year the year before, but what he did this past year, it's like, well, I don't know. I got questions here. I mean, that's why it's an inexact science.
You just said it. I was just going to say, Dan, you just took words out of my mouth. I said that's why it's unpredictable. That's why you never know. 50% of these first-rounders won't live up to their potential. It's just the way it is. It's trying to figure out who has the biggest bust factor and make those decisions. You go back to Phil Simms, came out of Morehead State. Steve McNair out of Alcorn State. Doug Williams out of Grambling. We've had them. Joe Flacco was at Pitt, then he finished up at Delaware. But he had these. You're right. You think about Trey Lance and certainly Zach Wilson. They haven't been on the big stage. They haven't faced any elite opponents, and now you go into the Big Apple if you're Zach. And you're going to be going somewhere if you're Trey. Now, I think Trey, if he goes to the right team that can let him sit, watch, and learn for a year or two, he's only 20 years of age, Dan. He only had 17 starts. I mean, he completed less than 57% of his passes in 6 games against 1 AA opponents. So he needs time. His accuracy needs to improve. He needs time. I think when you look at a guy like Zach Wilson, I think the arm talent, the undeniable ability he had to move around, athletic kid, basketball player in high school, just won over Joe Douglas. Because Zach Wilson wasn't great in 2018 or 2019. He wasn't, Dan. Yeah. He struggled with turnovers. He didn't have the accuracy he does now. He wasn't the quarterback he was this year. But this year, he definitely wowed everybody over against, as I say, a cupcake schedule.
How much time will you spend on your hair tomorrow night?
Very little, Dan. It's not like it's not. Hey, put it this way. It's not what it used to be.
We're all in that same boat. We're all in that same boat.
Not you, Dan. You're rolling along.
Oh, hey, it's great to talk to you. Congrats again for all your success, Mel. You started all of this. Well, we can blame you and we can credit. It's like Oberman and myself on SportsCenter. You can give us credit. You can blame us as well for what we did on SportsCenter. I think we can do that to you with all the mock drafts that are out there.
Hey, it'll always be the big show, Dan. I remember the book when Keith called me and said to do a little extra with and I told Keith what you guys meant to sports and ESPN. It was remarkable what you meant and how many fans I think you and Keith created all those years.
Mel, great to talk to you, buddy. Have fun tomorrow night.
You're the best, Dan. Take care, buddy.
That's Mel Kiper, draft expert. Their coverage starts tomorrow night at 8 Eastern. Greeny will be the host. You got Mel, you got Louis Riddick, Booger McFarland, Chris Mortensen, Adam Schefter, Susie Kolber in there as well. How about the big Zapple? For Zach Wilson, Todd, the big Zapple.
I think we can make that work.
Okay.
Zapple, it's a little tricky with that third letter.
No, you're not.
I appreciate the effort.
Okay, thank you. All right.
I know you could do better than that. I'm challenging.